This is Creepy and Geeky, a part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcast Network. Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and today's episode is part 2 in our sequel series, and we're talking about Escape Room and Escape Room Tournament of Champions. Helping me to figure out all the clues today are two guests, my daughter, Katrina, and Donna from the Dawn of the Dead podcast. Welcome back to the show, ladies.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into this because, these are two really fun movies. I like to equate the escape room movies as sort of a less like not less violent, but I don't know, a less sick version of Saw, I guess, in a way, because they're very much about traps in the rooms and everything and trying to get people to
figuring out the clues and all of that.
Yeah, figure out the clues. Yeah, this one's where Saw is more about John Kramer trying to get people to face their bad decisions and everything. This one's more about straight ahead just killing people, putting people in these situations where they have to figure it out and only one can survive. And there's a whole crazy backstory going on. You get pieces of it in the first one, and in the second one it gets a little bit, depending on the version you watch, it gets a little bit more backstory heavy. So we'll definitely be getting into how the differences in the two versions and everything. What were you gonna say?
So I was just gonna ask. So you two actually did an escape room, or am I imagining that?
Yeah.
No,
we
we did one not too long ago. Yeah.
How was
For
that?
my birthday. It was okay. I mean, it was it was interesting because, like, one, I'd never done one before. Katrina had done one like maybe a couple of weeks before we did it. Katrina took me to this one for my birthday this last year. So it was interesting. It was frustrating because the clues are kind of like they're there, but you get like, because there's a time limit. You got about an hour to figure everything out.
So you kind of have to just scour the room, right? Like they're everywhere. It could be something that you're not expecting at all to be a clue, I would assume.
Yeah, kind of like that. And then there's some stuff that you recognize as clues, but then there's like, I don't know, it was frustrating.
There's a lot of red herrings.
Yeah, and we had to, and like for the first half of it, they'll give you whatever help you want. If you just ask for help, they'll give you help.
Like free help.
Free help. And then after that first half hour, the last half hour, you've only got like, I think 3 chances.
3 hints.
Yeah, 3 more hints. And not only that, but this escape room, they made you like, for us, because we were in a time travel thing, they made us like dance around and act like we were like a clock. We had to put our hands in the air and like do this stupid crap and everything.
Sorry. It sounds hilarious. I've never done one, and I've always wanted to do one. And then when I saw these movies, I was like, I don't know if I'm all that ready to go do one now.
No,
it's a lot more fun, but if you're not good at like being observant, and you're not good at like kind of putting puzzle pieces together mentally, it's probably not a good idea for you to go. I went with someone the first time, and they definitely just don't have that kind of like that type of brain to like do all of that. So I was the one doing most of the stuff, and like they were finding more of like the very obvious physical things, like lifting things up and finding stuff, whereas I was having to do more of the mental kind of putting numbers and stuff together, because we were in like a bank heist kind of room. I was having to do all that stuff, and I was like, so I think it depends on what type of brain. I think it also depends on like what type of escape room you do. Like maybe there would have been an escape room that they would have enjoyed more if maybe it was a more physical like kind of easier room
and I
to
think
do.
it's better if you go with more people. If you can get a group of 3 or 4 together, then it's even easier because then you can bounce. You can bounce ideas off each other and stuff like
See,
that.
now that makes me want to come and visit you guys so I can go do one with you guys. My family's like, nah, they're not going to do it. My kids are like, nah, I'm not going to do that. So
my brother
I don't really
got
have a whole lot of
upset
people to go with.
My brother got upset the other day. We were talking about this podcast that we were going to be doing, and my dad was like, "You got to watch the escape room movies." And my brother was like, "I still am mad that you guys didn't bring me to do one." And we're like, "We're talking about the movies, dude. We're not talking about the actual escape room." So,
well, at least yours wasn't, high stakes like this escape room.
Oh,
but
yeah, it was just kind of embarrassment if we didn't.
Yeah, let me get into this movie. I do want to interject at the beginning of it. These different characters from different walks of life, they get this puzzle box, and then they have to solve the puzzle box, and we get like a little bit of who these archetypes are.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What kills me in this movie, and maybe it's just because I'm a greedy bastard, $10,000 is not enough money for me to go.
Right.
Yeah, to an unknown thing, like.
I mean, it's $10,000. That's nice. Don't get me wrong. 10,000 is 10,000. I mean, it's still pretty good.
At it, but I'm not gonna go to some remote location for 10 grand. You gotta lure me with more money.
And most of them had like friends who, or like family members who sent the box to them.
Or so they thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like meet with the person who sent me this and be like, is this for real? Like, what is this?
Right. Yeah. Like if your dad sent you one, you would be texting him like, is this real? And then your dad would be like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then you wouldn't go. That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Right.
But 10 G's is not enough for me. I'm a little greedy. You got to give me like a $500,000 or $250,000, something.
In this economy, yeah.
In this economy, 10 grand? Come on, son. I'm just saying. But anyway. Loving the characters, love that we get to see different people, a couple of characters we didn't see until they got to what is it, Minos?
Thank
you.
So we get they pronounce it Minos.
Yeah, Minos. That's what threw me off. So when they get there, then we're introduced into the other people that we didn't really kind of get any kind of backstory with. But from the get-go, when they walked in, I thought, okay, so y'all know that you're in an escape room right now, right? Like, you should know. Once he took your phone, I would assume that when I got into the elevator, that might have been an escape room at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because like when we go, like, this is what's interesting now that Katrina and I have been to an actual escape room and stuff like that. You go in and there's a guy there and they kind of tell you the rules and everything. And, you and then you go into the actual escape room. So there's like a little lobby there first. So I can see where they thought, okay, well, we're in this little waiting room. But yeah, like you said, they had to go through the guy who was taking their phone first. And then at that point, they should have known they were in the or at least suspected early on that they might be already in the escape room.
Yeah, and then the guy at the counter, makes the comment to Amanda, "Thank you for your service," and she kind of gives him the side eye, like, "How did you know I was in the service?" And I'm thinking,
I actually went back in this scene because like sometimes on like IDs it'll like say veteran on it, and so I like went back into that scene where she like slides the license over the counter to see if that was even on it, and it wasn't. So I was like, okay, so this is definitely just
somebody they know more about her than they should.
Person for this company and giving the clue away that they know who they are already. Like that.
Like
that's
the
dumb.
hair on the back of my neck would have been standing up at that point because I would have been like, whoa, give me my ID back. Fuck this.
That guy definitely got fired though.
Yeah, he definitely did.
That guy probably got killed.
He probably
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Probably got thrown into an escape room himself.
Quote unquote silenced. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So then, I love we get these kind of characters that we see, we've got Zoe, who's clearly, very I don't want to say antisocial, but she's very introverted and quiet and clearly got a big brain. We saw the conversation she had with her roommate, and her roommate, it was like she was talking French to this girl. She didn't know what the hell she was talking about. And then we see oh God, I can't remember the little nerdy guy who's been in all of the escape rooms, and he was so excited to be there. and it was interesting when we saw all of these different people. I was like, oh, this would be kind of neat to have an escape room with people you don't know, and you'd have to work together. It shit wouldn't work, at least
No, no,
No,
because you
not
never
for
know
no.
me.
what people's strengths and weaknesses are.
Right, and
You
not
know,
knowing them. But then over the course of the movie, we get to see what they kind of all bring to the table, which was really
right?
cool. But that first one definitely, the first room definitely freaked me out, especially with all of the items starting to heat up and the coils and you know,
Yeah.
we live in the
Oh,
South, so we already
that
know
would
what
be
heat feels
horrible.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
especially if you've been through what Amanda was through, once we saw her scars and we saw that,
Oh
she had
man.
been through this,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my God, I would be flipping out way more than she was." Like,
Yeah.
you would have had to slap me or something because I would have been like, "I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here."
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, that first room would have been like the worst, I think, for me. Just because
yeah.
I don't like heat and just like I don't know. It's just that I don't even know. Like just all of that. Like I would have been put off immediately because the woman behind the partition
We couldn't
was
see her.
like saying the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, I
Exactly.
would have caught that earlier on than they
And
did.
there
They
were
seemed to
already
not
like
catch that.
4 or 5 people in the room. Like, did y'all not notice that either? Like
Yeah.
that, like,
Every time they knocked on it and said something that she didn't, said the
and only
exact same thing.
Zoe
Only
noticed
Zoe
it
picked it
after
up.
the knob got like torn off, or like
Yeah.
after it started to heat up. Like, why is that the moment that they noticed that?
Yeah. That these guys were not very smart in the
No.
beginning.
No, no,
And but they kind of like the funny thing is that like they kind of blunder their way through all of these. None of them really seem to like catch on that quick. The little bits here
no.
and there. Don't get me wrong. Zoe caught on to things, like they catch on to things, but it's like when the room is almost about to kill them completely dead, that they finally figure it out. And
Yeah. To
I
be
was just like,
fair, their room is also actively trying to kill them while they're trying to find the
right.
clues. So there's like an added level of stress. So maybe like they're like
True,
trying to
true.
live and also find clues. So
All right, fine. I'll give them that.
devil's advocate here.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I mean, the heated room part is just like, yeah, I just, that one would give me so much like anxiety just trying to figure that one out and try not to die. um it's just, I don't know, I definitely do not like. So people do these extreme things like the extreme haunts
Hmm.
also, like, and that's kind of why I did, like, I was really reluctant to go do a real escape room anyway. Was like, I was just like, I don't need something super intense and weird and like freaking me out, because I don't do, like, sure, I watch lots of horror movies, but I don't do haunted houses or like haunted haunts at all, like anything like that. That's
I mean,
just too
I don't
much.
mind them, but I'm like you. I'd rather watch it. I don't need to
Yeah.
experience it. I don't need to immerse myself.
Yeah, I don't need that
Um,
immersive stuff. Like
but
you get into
It's just
those
all of
things
the
and it's
kind of
just
like
too much.
adrenaline junkies that really do that kind of stuff,
right.
though.
Ah,
I think
no,
escape rooms
see,
are
I
more
don't need.
fun in the way that like
Yeah, because you got to
it's
think your
not
way out.
stressful for the most part. Like,
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
So yeah, the first room definitely had me on edge, and then when we
Yeah.
go to the second room and you go from extreme heat to extreme cold, and I thought, okay, this is wild. Like like now we're gonna
yeah.
freeze to death. What the hell?
I was
And
with
then
Mike on that one. That's like that's how people get sick. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're going
Right.
extreme sweating to freezing. Yeah, you're gonna get like pneumonia in a heartbeat.
you're gonna get
Um,
like your body shocked, like into
it
like I
it's
don't know
so
what.
weird too because Danny is just he's still at this point he's adamant that this is just a rigged game. Of course, the
You're
room
right.
exploded right when I got out, and I thought, kid, you are about to be bacon. You really like this is like a joke now. So, the fact that we actually lose Danny in this escape room, that was when I was like, oh shit, these people
Yeah.
gonna die. I mean, I know that's the whole point of watching the movie, but I really didn't expect to see him go in that fashion. That's like probably my worst fear, to be trapped
I will
under the
say,
ice and
I noticed that
drowning.
the first two rooms kind of got rid of the things that people had brought in like kind of like illegally, quote unquote. Because the first room, I forgot his name. Um, whatever. The guy had a flask. So they got rid of
Oh,
the
Ben,
flask.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Ben. They got rid of the flask. So then the second room, they got rid of the lighter and the phone because Danny had the
Yeah.
phone.
Danny brought the second
So
phone.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they got rid of the lighter and the phone so that in any of the other rooms, they wouldn't be able to do any of that.
Yeah, I
Yep.
didn't even think about that because he did bring that flask, and that was the only thing that saved them from burning to death.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just it was very scary to see him, them trying to find him under the ice, and then you kind of just see him there. And I thought, Jesus, I don't want to drown, but I definitely don't want to drown in icy, frozen
Yeah.
water. That's
Yeah.
terrifying. And then we start to see these little layers kind of peeling off of the Jason character, because you got to think you're in here with people, and not all of them are good people. They just
Yeah.
aren't.
Hmm.
And you can tell something is off with Jason. And I couldn't take his character seriously when I watched it because I had seen him on Insecure on HBO, and he plays such a nice guy on that. I was like, I can't take this seriously. But but he did a great job. I couldn't take my head out of him on that other show that I had seen him on. So I was like, there's
That's
no way
funny.
he's going to be the villain or the heavy. And he was, and he was really creepy at it too. Um, and didn't waste any time ripping off his shirt later on, let ladies know he still works out. I was like, okay, you do you, boo. Um, but that room to me, here it is, just like you said earlier, Katrina, that you're figuring out all of the clues. Like Zoe's figuring out all of these things, and people are adding little pieces to the puzzle, but she's the one that's really the brains of this group,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
she's the one going off and like being like, wait, I saw this thing, or like that's the kind of like brain that you kind of need to have in an
Right.
escape room. So
Right.
that
Yeah.
was nice to see that they actually like had someone who was doing that compared to everyone
Yeah.
else who was just kind of
Recognizing the
like,
patterns and everything. Yeah.
but those are like puzzle oriented people, whereas like I
Hmm.
think most of the other people are just like your average Joe kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was interesting in this room, and it was interesting to see how fast uh you could see Jason starting to crack. Like, he
Well,
found the key and he turned the knob and he was wanting the door to open, and you don't want to freeze to death. Everybody's kind of freaked out at this point.
so, and part of this is because the game creators, obviously know all of these people's past
Hmm.
history and are using little things against them. And so they're, you know, like the first one was obviously to rattle Amanda because
Right.
she'd been burned. And this room was meant to rattle Jason because he had, there was the red jacket in there and it was
Hmm.
about being cold and, uh, needing to use that jacket. And that was throwing him off. And so making all that stuff bubble up. Each room of these was designed to rattle somebody and make it so that they, when they, not necessarily to kill them, but
Hmm.
to throw them off enough to make it harder to focus on
Right.
escaping,
The whole mind
you know?
game and getting in your
Yeah.
head, and yeah, it was interesting. And then we go to the upside down room, the billiard room, which,
Right.
my God, the set design on that was just too perfect. I was so in love with that. I was like, this is so great. I wouldn't want to be in this, but this is really
Yeah.
great.
No, they like this is what I like about these movies is that like like I compare them to Saw, but
Hmm.
in terms of their elaborateness and stuff like that. But Saw is just kind of like industrial. Everything's like in a factory
Grimy
or
and
something like
dirty,
that,
and yeah,
grimy and dirty. And these are so elaborate and intense and so much more fun and interesting that it's just I don't want to compare the two because they're completely separate in terms of their tone and everything. But it just, that's what it kind of reminds me of, was with the death traps and everything. But these are just so much more elaborate and interesting in ways, because I mean, you do have to puzzle your way out of them more
Mm-hmm.
than trying to, do whatever you need to do in Saw to get out of the trap. And so, sacrifice something. So at least in this, you're trying to, and a lot of times you do have to, like, each one of these, you're having to figure that out based on something that was a clue, because as they go along, they get more and more personal in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what they have to kind of figure out as well.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting in how they're using their pasts, like, against them, and trying to, get it all figured out, while they're all trying to still keep their stuff close to the vest,
Yeah, because
because we
everybody's
find
kind
out
of just. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, because we find out, like, in the next room, exactly why they were all brought together. So
Yeah, and I thought that was really interesting too, because, at this point we're just thinking, okay, they've just picked these random people. And yeah, they are
right,
random, but they all have a common thing in common, that makes them stand out, and which is why they were picked for this particular escape room challenge.
right,
And I was floored at it, just because I don't know. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it just to be like, we're just trying to see who's going to survive out of all of these rooms. And
right.
in the next room, it was like a hospital triage, like all of these different hospital rooms that these people had, I guess, been in.
Right.
And we come to
And at
find out
this
that they're,
point,
go ahead.
I'm just going to say, at this point now, we've lost Amanda. She died in the
Oh,
last
right.
one, in the
And
last room. So we've
that,
lost the kid. What was his name? Danny.
Danny,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we lost Amanda. And so now we're down to Zoe, Ben, Jason, and Tyler Levine's character. I can't remember his
Like
name. Mike.
Mike, yeah. I
Yes,
don't know
thank
why
you.
I can never remember Mike. Yeah. Um,
Just got to say real quick, I love Tyler Labine. He's one of my favorite actors. He's been in so many fun things, including one of my all-time favorite movies, Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
oh, I
So
love that movie. He
so I just
really
had
is
to put that
great.
out. Yeah, oh, he's so good. He's so fun in this too.
And that room that they go to with all of the hospital stuff, and then that's when they kind of piece together that they all were the sole survivors of
Soul
something that
survivors. Yeah.
happened that was, horrific or tragic in their lives. And I thought, Jesus, that is terrible. Just
And
like
now,
you're
like,
already,
yeah. No, go
it's
ahead.
like yeah, you already went through this horrible traumatic experience. You're still dealing with PTSD. You're still dealing with the ramifications of your actions or whatever happened. And now you have to, like, basically fight these people to the death to get to the end of the room. I
Yeah.
mean, this is messed up.
Yeah, you have to be the sole survivor of the soul survivors. That's the
Nah,
whole yeah. It's pretty
it's
fucking nuts.
terrible.
Yeah.
And then they each kind of talk about their stories, like what happened. With the exception of Jason, I think everybody kind of says what happened. We find out
He
that.
does, but he tells a different version of his
Oh yeah,
actual
his version
story.
is bullshit. That's right.
Yeah.
So, we find out that Ben was driving with his friends and they were all wasted and he was the only one that survived and he was driving the car, and find that Zoe was in a plane crash and everybody died except for her and her mom. Because they even made a reference to that at the beginning. I think Amanda was
Yeah.
like, "Don't I know you? Are you on TV?" Because
yeah.
clearly she
Right.
was probably all over the news for weeks.
Yeah.
And then we find out also that Mike was in, what was it, like a coal
A mine
mine
collapse. Yeah.
collapse? Yeah, and
Where he
he
saw his
had to hear
brother
his
die.
brother
Yeah.
die, and oh
Yeah.
God, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Um,
And then
oh, and then
Jason was on a boat trip with his friend or whatever. And the way he claims it is that his friend took off and jumped in the
yeah,
water, and, he never saw him again.
right,
But
and
we
then
find out
Danny's
differently.
family. I think Danny's family had everybody died of carbon monoxide poisoning, but he was the only one
Yeah.
Oh,
that
right.
didn't die.
Right.
So,
And then Amanda
that was
was Amanda survived an attack on her because she
right,
was a
like
soldier,
an
so she was the sole
IED
survivor of
blast
an
or
yeah,
something.
an
Yeah.
IED blast. Yeah.
So all of that kind of, I love that scene because at this point we're thinking, well, Zoe is the last, you know, fragile person, but she actually gets angry and she's like, well, they're watching us. The game is rigged. We just gotta knock these cameras out so they don't know what we're doing. And I thought that was
Right.
kind of a neat change of character for her because I was just expecting her to break down and cry or, have them rescue her or whatever. And she got pissed. Like she
Right.
was
Yeah.
just angry. Um, and the guys are trying to figure out how to get out to the next room. And like you said earlier, Robert, with them having little different things out of their lives, they pull out like these X-ray charts, and it's in sign language. And Ben knows that because he has a deaf cousin. You know,
Mhm.
they just, I'm trying to figure out how did they just dug all the way into these people's lives and to get all of these little minute details. That's wild.
Yeah. I, the escape rooms that I've done have not been that personal. So that is definitely
Yeah, thankfully they're not weirdly digging into
yeah.
our lives to
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
yeah, that would just be a little weird if all of a sudden all the clues started becoming real personal. I'd be
Yeah.
like, get me the fuck out of
Yeah.
here right
Yeah, that'd
now.
be a
Yeah.
fuck that
Yeah.
moment for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. But I think it is interesting like how much information they were able to get because like I don't know how much like I wonder how many rooms were tailored to each person. I still don't really know which room was
Hmm.
supposed to be tailored for that 8 ball room, the one that was upside down. I don't know like if that was
Yeah,
supposed to be tailored to
that
someone.
one may not have been tailored. Yeah,
It feels
Well, I
like
don't know if
maybe
it
the
was
first room was like tailored for both Danny, Amanda, and Mike, maybe. Just from the
maybe.
coal, carbon monoxide, and the IED blast, all of the just like
yeah.
kind of flame kind
And I
of
mean, they may not have been.
adjacent.
I may have been wrong. Yeah, in that they were tailored. They just felt like a little bit more, specific like that.
Yeah.
Or it may have been something that,
Rooms.
that they knew that Mike frequented because he actually figured out it was the billiard balls, the stripes, and the
True.
solid.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's
maybe
possible.
they knew he went, playing pool a lot or went to the same bar a lot, little things like that. It all did kind of piece everything together. So,
Right.
um, but can we talk about that last room with the trippy black and white?
Oh my
Well,
God.
real quick, because in the medical room, so she's knocking out all the cameras, but they're all of a sudden they're trying to figure out how to get out, and they all get gassed.
Oh, right.
And there's a poison gas about to hit, and so Mike dies. They try to, I don't remember how he died, but they tried to revive
They were
him.
using
Oh,
they were
right, they were
using
trying to
the
use
thing
the paddles to do
to get
that, and
out
they
of the
ended up
room. It
killing
was like
him. Yeah,
extreme
they
like
thought
heart
they
rate
thought they needed to raise the heart rate, but they needed to lower the
To
heart
lower
rate,
it. And
and
that's
to
when
open the
so
exit.
Jason pulls the shirt off,
yeah,
so you can all get a
yeah,
look at his
yeah.
awesome body with 0% body fat. Like, Jesus, dude, eat a sandwich. Um,
But yeah, so then they get Mike dies, and then they think that or what's her Zoe keeps trying to take out all the cameras and stuff, and she
right.
just tells them to go, and then so Ben and Jason are the only two to get into the next room, which is like this weird living room with the TV, and everything's like trippy and weird, and everything
Ugh.
starts moving and hallucinating. And because they had like ingested a bunch of that poison, now they're all like hallucinating, and things are going wild.
Well,
Um,
that, and then when they turned the little dial to get to
oh
the
right,
little
that's what
Yeah,
got
manhole,
them.
it had
turn the
like
Yeah,
some
hatch. Yeah, it had a
yeah,
LSD poison
yeah,
on it. And
those
my
yeah.
God,
chemicals.
That's right.
that that room disturbed the hell out of me. First of all, I just want to say I have never been on a trip, so I don't ever want to go on one if
Same.
it's anything like
Nope.
that. I
Same.
I cannot handle that kind of shit. I can barely
Yeah.
handle regular life. I don't want to handle shit
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it was interesting. I felt myself getting queasy because it was just too much. The
Yeah.
strobe light and the swirly, and I couldn't. But then we see his true nature comes out. He's definitely
Yep.
gonna kill
Jason's.
Ben if
Yep.
he can to get that antidote at this point. And it was harrowing, but we got to see his true nature, and I think we've been seeing a little bit of his true nature throughout the
Oh, it's
whole
been, yeah, it
film.
was coming
Hmm.
out more and more
Yeah.
each time. Yeah. As the stress got more and more on him, the more his like nature came out. And then you find out that yeah, he actually killed his friend on that, and to take the jacket and make sure that he survived.
Yep.
And yeah, it's and then there's only one vial of antidote. And they fight over it, and Jason ends up dead, and Ben manages to inject it in himself. And make it down the hatch to get into the next room, which actually brings us full circle because in the beginning of the movie we see Ben almost getting crushed by this next room that he's in, which is like some kind of library, full of books and shelves and
kind of
all
weird,
kinds
like
of stuff.
home office library thing.
Right. Yeah. And it's like slowly like moving. The walls are
Just
slowly
crushing
crushing
in.
in. Like, yeah.
And then he manages to he's trying to make it out, and I don't he did make it out, right? Yeah.
He did.
So he makes it out and he's the winner. He's the sole survivor. And he's comes out into this area where there's all these monitors and stuff, and he sees all the other players as marked as dead, and he's the winner. And a guy comes out and starts telling him like the whole story is that rich people are betting on people, which one's going to live. And they didn't expect him to be the winner. But then the guy like goes to start choking Ben to kill him. And then that's when Zoe arrives. She's still alive. She's got a gun and she shoots the guy in the shoulder. And then as as he's laying there and she's got the gun over him, he looks over at the screen and he sees his picture now on the screen as now he's a player in the game. And once she kills him and everything, her and Ben get to be the winners, and they win the whole thing and get out of there and try to heal.
Oh my God.
And they are able to contact the authorities, but when they
come back, there's nothing
it's completely
empty. Nothing. Yeah. So I mean, if they've got enough money to dig into your whole life, they got enough money to make that place disappear.
Sanitize it. Yeah.
I think I would just take the win that I survived and leave it at that, because nobody's gonna believe that story. Nobody even going there. There's not a shred of anything. And I would move on, but no, Zoe doesn't do that, because we see her and Ben at the end of the movie. Ben's all cleaned up, and I'm assuming he's doing better in life. And Zoe looks a little bit
pulls
more,
out this thick ass folder.
She's a little more glammed up, and she's got her big ass binder of shit that she's put together, and now they're gonna go looking for these people.
Newspaper clippings, kind of just mad woman kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I am straight up not that inquisitive. I'd be like, just leave me the fuck alone. I'm not looking for you. I don't care. Just, it's done. But yeah, then we see that
this one ends with the plane thing, right? Like, yeah, where they're on a plane, and then all of a sudden everything starts going haywire. They're basically still in the game. And then it just kind of ends there. And it's a weird ending for sure. I was just like, okay, how are you going to end it like that? So obviously they were trying to go for a sequel, and they go for a sequel, which is great, because the sequel is actually, I feel like the sequel is just as much fun. And so Katrina and I originally went, we saw it in the theater. We saw the theatrical version, but this time for the show, I actually watched the extended cut. And I went back and kind of rewatched the bits and pieces from the theatrical that are different from the extended cut. But in the theatrical cut, let's talk about that first. So in the theatrical cut, they pick up right where we left off. Zoe and Ben are talking about going and finding these people. Ben doesn't really want to, but Ben likes,
he wants to support Zoe
and wants to support her. And so they go, they're going to go try to get on the airplane, and you find out that Zoe just can't fly still. So because of her trauma of being the sole survivor of a plane crash, she just can't do it. And so then they end up driving. They drive to New York. I don't remember where they lived at in the first place, but they drive to New York from wherever they were.
You're right.
And they go find, they try to go find, they think there's this entrance to the thing. They get a homeless guy steals her necklace, runs away, takes them into the subway, and gets out of the subway car before they can, and now they're trapped
And
on the
now they're
subway
trapped
car,
on another
and
escape
now
room
they're
on a
trapped
train.
in the escape room, which was crazier because it's even more elaborate and crazy than
Who
the
would think
last
that?
movie.
I wouldn't think that. I would just be like, oh, it's okay, it's fucking Subway.
Yeah. You wouldn't think you're going right into another
No.
fucking escape room, like another death trap. It's
And this one
crazy.
scares the hell out of me because of the electricity. No,
Yeah.
I'd be dead in
Right.
like 5 minutes. And we get like a whole new set of people now that are playing, and they have that thing in common that they're all the survivors
They're
of
all
their
former
tournament.
survivors of their escape rooms. Yeah. So now this is why it's called Tournament of Champions, is
So this
because
is
now
one thing
it's yeah.
that kind of
Go ahead.
irritates me about it. They survived their particular tournament. They weren't
Right.
proactively looking for these people, so leave them the
No.
fuck alone. Now Zoe has
Right.
brought these people into the fold, and they didn't ask to be there. This was not not
Right.
something that
Right.
and
So
they were
you got to
minding their
wonder if it
own
was
business.
Zoe's. Yeah, you got to wonder if it was Zoe, like, trying to, find out all about this, that they just happened to. But also at the same time, like all of these other people just happened to, like, because they just thought they were on a normal subway car,
Right.
and so they all just happen to live in that area. So like obviously this Minos group has just been terrorizing the people of fucking New York, for for however long they've been doing it. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, you can't go anywhere without being like thrown into a death trap, apparently.
Yeah, that sucked. For me, that sucked because I'm thinking, I can understand them doing it to Zoe and Ben just because they're proactively looking, but if I'm minding my own fucking business, just leave me
Right.
be. That's all I'm saying. I am once again not that fucking inquisitive. If I made it through the first round, I am good for life. Don't even give me the 10 grand. I don't want shit. Just let me breathe and work and do my bullshit. That's all I want to do. I would think life would be so much sweeter after you've survived something like that. I would take every single day as the best goddamn day I ever had. You know what I mean? So now we have
Yeah.
these people involved. Now, I did see the extended before the theatrical, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of a different thing here. How do we want to address this, the extended versus the theatrical? Because there are certain things that are different.
So I will say at the beginning there are two different kind of openings
Hmm.
Yeah.
to Zoe and
Yeah.
Ben going to New York. In the theatrical cut, it's Zoe's in a therapist's
Oh, in the
office, and
therapist's office.
and
Yeah.
so she's talking to her therapist
Right.
about Minos, and the therapist doesn't think that Zoe has been able to let go, and she thinks that everything is a clue. And so she holds up a pen, a bag, a book, and she's like, these are all clues to you. Um, and Zoe's just kind of over it. She's like, okay, well, like the therapist asks her, what can we do to get you on the plane, to get over this trauma of the plane crash that resulted in her mom dying and her being the sole survivor,
I'm going to
ergo
tell you
her
right
being in
now,
the
I was
escape room.
immediately suspect of
Yeah,
this therapist,
yeah,
of the stuff she was saying. I was like, you're setting up this poor girl. You're part of
yeah.
this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then Zoe's like, the thing that will get me on the plane is knowing that the people behind this are in jail and they won't ever do it to anybody ever again. And so then that leads us into the subway and all of the other escape rooms. Um, and I can kind of jump to the end of this movie to kind of like give some
Yeah.
insight into how the
Hmm.
theatrical cut ended. So at the end of it, they end up it's kind of rushed, I feel like, at the
Hmm.
end with the theatrical cut.
Very.
But they end up getting out. They tell the police what happened, and Minos is found, and people are being taken away in police cars and everything. And so they Zoe kind of wins. Um and so throughout the theatrical cut, Amanda from the first movie ends up
Hmm.
coming back. She didn't actually die. She apparently was the game maker or like the puzzle maker or whatever um
Second movie.
for the second movie.
Hmm.
And then she's trying to get Zoe to become a part of it, but that's only because they're holding Amanda's daughter, which we never hear about in the first movie, I think. Unless I could
No,
be
we
wrong.
never heard about that.
Yeah.
They never
So
brought it
No,
up.
they end up putting as a scene in this one.
Yeah, when they're
where
in the
her and
snowy
Zoe
place.
talk
Yeah.
to each other. Yeah.
And it's very
But that wasn't
strange.
actually in the first movie.
So they include that, and so then at the end, Zoe's asking, okay, they're all gone. And they Zoe asks about Amanda's daughter. They say they're still looking for Amanda's daughter, and the policeman gives Zoe back the necklace that was her mom's. And so Zoe and Ben get on a plane to go back home. And then on this plane, Zoe's getting up to use the restroom, and then she hears an alarm ringing. That alarm was the same alarm sound that the therapist used to indicate the end of their session. And so Zoe comes up, thinks it's her therapist. It's not, but the woman who's sitting in the seat with the alarm has the same pen, the same bag, and the same book from the beginning of the movie. And then it goes into Minos being like, welcome back to the game. Yeah. You didn't get us like you thought. And so that's the end of the theatrical cut. It's very weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
No, it's very disjointed and doesn't make sense. Yeah. It's a weird that's it's almost like they had to meet the deadline or something like that. And so they just kind of threw it all together.
They just kind of tacked it on.
Yeah. And I really do kind of want to look into it a little bit more and find out why they did it that way, because the extended cut has a lot more of the backstory of Minos and the people behind the games and stuff.
The game rooms make so much more sense after watching the extended cut. Whereas like Amanda's reasoning for all of the rooms doesn't make sense. Like with there's a room with like sand, and so then there's like a woman with seashells on her eyes, and she's looking at a daughter with dark hair, but Amanda's daughter doesn't have dark hair, but that's Amanda's reasoning for that. And it's like that doesn't make sense. So and like, who's Sonia?
So weird.
Sonia is Amanda's daughter. Like that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of things with the theatrical cut that just like really didn't make sense. That watching the extended version like kind of put everything together again. So now we can go into the extended cut and talk about that much better film.
Well, in this one, it's interesting because we get James Frain as this guy, and James Frain is one of those like great actors. He's kind of a character actor. You see him pop up and stuff. He was like in some episodes of True Blood. He plays like Clue's Toady in Tron Legacy. He just kind of pops up in little things here and there. He's a great character.
He has such a punchable face. Every time I see him, I just want to
punch him in the face. He's a great actor, but you do want to punch his face.
God, I really want to punch him in the face.
He plays great bad guys. Yeah,
he's good at it. I mean, look at him.
And then he's his wife comes home with their daughter, and it seems like the daughter and the mother have had a good day or whatever, just out doing a mom and daughter day. And she's and the daughter wants to go talk to the dad and tell her about the day, and the mom's like, no, don't bother him, he's working. And then you find out that he's like the guy making the games for Minos, and it's set in 2003, so it's like what, 10 15 years before, I think about 15 years before. Then the mom goes in and says, I don't know, I can't remember. It's only been like a week or so since I saw the movie, but it's something that having to do. They obviously have a fractured relationship, and I think she wants to leave. But and you think it's because of him and everything, and so then he just tells her to go take a swim or whatever. And so she goes, you see her swimming. He's looking creepily out the window at her.
Yeah.
And then I kept expecting, I was like, she's going to die in the pool. And then she doesn't die in the pool. I was like, okay. So she's not dying in the pool. But then she goes into like the sauna.
Okay.
Well, here's where she dies. And it's true. the door's locked, the heat starts going up, and then she's got to figure out how to get out of the room. And she figures out that one of the rocks is like a magnet, or there's a magnet under the rocks, the really hot rocks in a steam room. And so she's got to pull those out, burning her hands in the process. And then, she's trying to use the magnet to get the door open with the 3 metal bolts. And she gets like almost there, but then like passes out, dies. And uh and then does it I can't remember, does it jump from there and then we get a scene later? I think so, right?
Yeah,
I think they go back.
The
yeah
stuff with Ben.
So then so I mean, so to put this all into context, to keep putting this all into context, later on we see the daughter. Now she's older, now played by Isabel Furman from the Orphan movies.
Orphan. Mm-hmm.
So, and if anybody hasn't seen Orphan First Kill, well, number one, go watch Orphan. It's a good movie, but go watch Orphan First Kill. That's an even better movie. Julia Stiles in that is fantastic. I mean, just everything's so good about that movie. But Isabel Furman, she plays the now grown daughter, and so she's trapped in this room, and you find out she's the one who's making all the games up, and he's trapped her in there, so she'll keep making games for Minos, or else they'll kill him and her, so.
And you end up finding out too that she's actually the one who created the room for her mom,
kill her mother. Yeah,
right.
So
I still don't understand why she did that. I don't.
Well, because they explain that later on. They kind of explain that later on when you get kind of the story, like the flashbacks of her being like evil and her mom, like
and her mom
wanting to get her some help, and
the mom wanted to get her help, and the mom also wanted to get away, because she was just like, you're nuts, because she was like a little psycho kid, and so you come to find out that I think that's at the very end when they kind of so all that being said, so she's created this new group of rooms, and in the beginning you also see the daughter when she's younger. You see her after her little day trip, she's putting all the little mementos from the trip inside this box. You're seeing a seashell, an umbrella, a couple of other things, a lollipop, things that come into play later on in the movie. And so in these actual escape rooms that they get put in. And so it was interesting that, they kind of put that in this version. They kind of foreshadow the little bits and pieces there. I think you forget about that until later on, and you're like, oh,
so you have the Saw moment where they break it down.
Yeah. So again, having these really interesting connections to the Saw franchise. But
and the other thing, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and the other thing too is that the all of the people who were survivors in the different tournaments, they all had specific I guess things going on. Like I think one of them, his escape room had nothing but priest, and one of them, I think it was like, I don't remember what the woman's name was, but she couldn't feel any physical pain. Like all of them had like specific things that applied, which was kind of interesting in this one, as opposed to us just having a random group of people.
Right.
Because I know at one point we get the room that has like acid rain, and of course she can't feel it.
Can't feel it.
I mean, she can still die, but she can't feel it. Which that creeped me out. I will just let you know, that's a creepy ass thing. It's funny. I watch horror movies all the time, but I really do get creeped out when I watch certain things, because it just kind of, I don't know if it's a trigger or what. It's just I don't like it.
Right.
But all of the stuff, especially in the beach room, it had a lot of things that were attributed to her mother. I think the whole Sonya thing, and it was different. I felt like it was a different movie like a completely different telling of it to me when I watched the extended as opposed to the theatrical.
Yeah,
because I mean, everything actually has more meaning, because when you look at the Amanda version of it, it's doesn't seem as connected as it is when you watch the Sonya version.
Yeah, and it
When you
doesn't really
watch the
make any
Sonya version,
sense.
yeah, when you watch the Sonya version, it makes so much more sense, and everything connects so much better, and just everything clicks together in a way that the other one. And it's just like, why did they do like? I still don't understand why they didn't put out the extended as the actual movie. And because if we do get a third one, are they going to have it based on the theatrical or
I
on
really
the
hope they'll follow
extended?
the extended cut.
Yeah, me
Like,
too.
I hope
And
they
maybe
release the
add some,
extended cut as like a short like thing in theaters. That way
maybe,
people who
yeah.
saw it originally in theaters can see that version. I mean they did that with Spider-Man. So maybe they can do that if there's enough of an audience for it. I'd be down to watch that in theaters. And
Well, they
then
could always
that will
add the,
make it more sense.
yeah, they could always add the footage, some of that footage from the first or from this one, the extended one, to a new movie, to kind of, make it fall
Yeah,
in
because they
line with
did do
that whole
that in the
storyline.
second movie. They did a recap of the first movie in the second
Right,
one at the
exactly.
beginning. So they could do that.
And then in this one, we also get what was her name? I already just forgot it. Isabel Furman, where you think she's being held prisoner and she's trying to get released from the room that she's in.
Yeah, because her dad's a psycho or something like that. You feel like he's just trapping her in there for
Right.
you know for his good, but it's actually to keep her in there because he didn't want to die. So, like, she killed her mother. So
She really plays a convincing victim. Like, from
yeah,
orphan onto this, it's like you can't help but feel sad and you want to help this poor girl. And like Zoe has such a good heart. She's just trying to help this girl, not knowing that this is the person that's been putting you through all of this torment that you've been dealing
right.
with.
So let's go into the escape rooms themselves, though, because we talked about the first one. They go into the subway car, and
Hmm.
then it all starts electrifying. Uh, they have to figure out
The
the
tokens.
missing the tokens. Yeah, they have to look at all the signs to find the missing letters, to correspond to um which thing they have to pull while not being shocked the whole time, and uh getting the subway tokens to put in the thing to find out a phrase that's being displayed up on the little LED monitor or whatever. And they figured out just in time. All but one of them gets through, of course.
Hmm.
Each
So I
room
got to
picks off
lose
one person
one.
at a time.
Yeah.
Yep. And so they get through it, and just as Zoe's going down, uh it she sees the sign at the top, and it says "Welcome back." So
Yeah. Fuck all
it's
of
just
that.
like they are so fucking evil. It's just fucked up.
I mean, and the escape rooms are way, I thought they were intense in the first one. When they
Oh,
got to
these are
the
way more
bank,
intense.
when they get
Yeah.
to the
Yeah,
bank with the laser and they have to, uh, you know, get around the lasers and they're different. Oh man, I'd be
yeah.
dead. Like, I'm not even kidding. There's no way.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and that's what leads them, that yeah, they go from the subway, they go into like a little, like, I don't know, something underneath the subway. They go
Hmm.
inside, and then it turns into an elevator. They go down. That's when they kind of talk about, because this elevator takes a long ass time to get down there. Um, which is weird. And
Yeah.
maybe it just wasn't moving part of the time, but they're in this thing that becomes an elevator, and they talk about what each one of them. That's where we find out what each one of their previous rooms had been, like the
Right.
priest one, and the you don't
Yeah.
the girl who
One
can't
was
feel, she doesn't say.
influencers,
Yeah, one was influencers.
one
Yeah, and
was
the girl who
priests.
and the girl who can't feel anything, she didn't say what hers was. So you don't find
Yeah,
out
we
until a
don't,
little
we
bit
find that
later.
out later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And two, the thing that's different about these escape rooms is that in the first one, like you said earlier, Robert, they all had some kind of connection. The room had some kind of connection to the contestants. And in this
But
one, they
these,
all kind of were
yeah,
connected to the whole Sonya thing, the
yep,
storyline that the girl has brought up.
yeah,
So that was interesting because that's even harder, at least with the rooms that are familiar or, tagged to you, you can kind of piecemeal it. But you had no context with any of the stuff that's going on in these. You just have to figure out the goddamn puzzles.
Yeah, but
yeah, yeah.
at the end, think her name is Claire in the film. I think she tells Zoe that she's trying to like tell a story and that Zoe is like the only one who could figure it out and like connect
Right.
those pieces across the rooms.
Right.
So I think that
Yeah.
was very interesting kind of setup that it wasn't each room is its own thing. It's all of the rooms together are
Right.
what the puzzle maker is trying to say.
Right. And you see it later on too when she recounts her story, when Isabel Furman's character tells the story
Mm.
about it. All you see that was her day. They rode on the subway, they went to the bank, they rode in a cab. You know,
Yeah.
there was all these little bits of the story. They went to the beach, and so there was all these little bits that was like the story of that day with her
Mm-hmm.
mom. And that's how all that connected. And so it was definitely was an interesting, and it made more sense than
Mm-hmm.
Amanda's weird shoehorned in story.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. Like even when we watched it, I think Katrina and I went and saw this at the theater, and we watched it, and we were just like, "What? What's going on?" Like it didn't make any sense
It just
because
feels like a cop out.
Yeah.
To me, it felt like a cop out because when we saw Amanda die, we saw Danny die, we saw Amanda die. They're dead. That's the end of it. You
mhm.
don't bring people back because if that's the case, then when they make the third one, they could essentially bring whoever I don't remember what the priest guy's name was, but they
Yeah,
could bring him back because we just saw him got swallowed. We didn't see him die. I mean, if you're gonna
Yeah,
no,
because I
be,
mean the same thing happened to Ben, but he
yeah,
came back.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that leads us to the bank, which, like you said, was crazy because there's like if they step on the wrong tile because they've got to make it from one side of the room to the other
to
to
the
get
other.
into the vault. And they've got to make sure they step on the right tiles because they step on the wrong tile, this whole laser grid activates, and they get hurt. They like it's literal, like not just harmless. They are cut you in half lasers,
Yeah, no,
and
that's creepy.
and a couple of times they get zinged by them.
Right, they get
But
like burned or nicked by it. Yeah,
yeah,
that's terrifying.
yeah, and so it's just this one was really like this one was really intense. They had to find like keys that were embedded in these lollipops, which leads into the lollipop thing we talked about before. And find this find the actual paper that shows which tiles they can go on, and then they managed to get through that one. um they all do, right? Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
they
Yeah,
all
I think
managed
they
yeah,
to
all
they
get
do.
all
through
go
that
through
one.
that one.
Yeah, they all managed to get through that one, and make it into the vault barely in time. The vault door was closing. They barely had any time to get through, and they finally got through it. And that's when they end up in the beach area. And it's this weird, crazy, like obviously it's set to be like a northeastern, like maybe Connecticut style, beach thing,
Hmm.
with a lighthouse and little crab shacks and stuff. And so, but then then
Then they have quicksand.
then they have quicksand. The sand is literally trying to swallow them in this thing. And so again, this one was really intense. They're trying to figure out the clues while also not being swallowed by the sand, trying to figure out the way out. I don't know. I just felt that most of these traps in this one were so much more intense and harder to get through than the first movie. The first movie, they had you know not time, but they had some time to get through some of these, you know, uh here and
And I
there.
think,
But
yeah, I
I don't
think
know. These
even
seem to be
even the
take
traps in the
yeah.
first one, the traps in the first escape room, yeah, they were still high stakes and you could still die, but these seemed like no matter what you're gonna do, it's gonna either be, by the the hair on your ass of getting out or you're gonna eat it. I mean, these were crunch ones. Like
Mm-hmm.
it, narrow
Yeah.
escapes happened all throughout this film. And then I think in the beach escape room, we lose two people, but we really only lost one because we all knew Ben wasn't going anywhere. But I mean, well, I don't know. Sometimes in sequels they kill off popular characters, so he could have. But in my heart of hearts, I was like, he's not dead. He'll be all right.
Yeah.
But then they make it out, and then there were two escape routes in that one, right? Because one of the ladies
one was
escapes
through the
through,
refrigerator.
right,
Yeah.
and then they made it out through another route, which
Through the
was kind of
moon,
interesting.
like that was above the
Yeah,
lighthouse.
the
Yeah.
moon, yeah. So that was interesting that they had two different ways you could have exited that room. But then we get to the city, because we're like, oh, okay, they made it out of the escape room. They're in the actual city streets now.
Yeah.
Which when I saw that, I was like, y'all should have called bullshit because there was no people out there. It's like New
Right.
York and there's nobody out here. Are you serious? Um, and I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, you're definitely in the game because that was the first thing I was looking for was where are the extra people if y'all made it out where it's New York, you'd have a lot of people, even if they were just, going from
Right.
point A to point B, we had nothing. Um, and then that's when we get the acid rain and that terrified the hell out of me.
Yeah.
All the stuff melting is just kind of like a crazy imagery.
Yeah.
I loved all of the like effects and stuff that they did for these films. I honestly have to commend the like effects team and everyone involved with that because
Yeah, the effects and the
the
set design
imagery
are
for
so
this stuff
The
great.
is
set design,
really
yeah.
good.
Yeah, no, every one of these, like, the set design, the effects, everything is done so well. Like this is what kind of is funny too, because you never hear people talking about the escape room movies. Like people just seem to be like either they didn't watch them or people just aren't hyped on them. And I just think people are missing out on, some really good movies. So it's very elaborate, like I said, very Saw like, but in a interesting, in a differently, more visually interesting way, I think, because of the complexity of these set designs and what they have to go through to get through each trap. So to me, these are a lot of fun because of those. But yeah, we get into the this cityscape, this like sidewalk street. There's a cab sitting there, but they can't get into that. They can get into the phone booth, but only two of them can get into the phone booth at a time, and there's three of them still there, and they've got to figure out how to um, uh, get basically they're trying to figure out the clues that will then open the door to the cab. And then once that happens, Zoe's the only one that gets in before the door shuts.
Right.
And then the other two women are left out there to die. And Zoe ends up being the only one to escape at this point, or so we think. And in this version, she ends up, the back seat gives way. She drops down. In the theatrical version, she ends up in this weird little room that we find out is Sonia's room, quote Sonia's room, which is Amanda's child.
Yeah.
And that leads into the whole Amanda revelation. But in the extended cut, you don't see her for a bit, but then you see her, and she's been brought to Isabel Furman's character. I can't remember her name. But
Claire, I think.
I think it's Claire.
Okay, so brought to Claire to for Claire to get her help in, because she realized what her dad meant about needing help to, like, seeing things from a different perspective or something like that, because she's trapped in this room with this big glass wall, and she's got this screen that is supposedly supposed to help her figure out the code to get out of her room. And it isn't until Zoe's there that Zoe can actually go to the side of the screen and look at it from a different perspective and see the things that she needs to be able to see to give her the code to get out.
Right, because it's like if she puts the wrong code in,
she can only,
it'll kill her,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
she only has like three chances, and it takes the oxygen out of her room or something like that.
Yeah. So then they figure it out. She gets loose. She's got there's one of the guards who's been supposed to be watching her, I guess, has fallen in love with her. She's seduced him in a way.
That's
And
creepy as hell.
yeah. And she's an adult at this point, so
Yeah,
so
I
at
know.
least that's
But I
that
mean,
part of it's
who
good.
knows how long he's been watching this girl, for God's sake.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, she's basically duped this poor guy to help her. I got it.
Yeah, and then he shoots the dad, and then and she manages to get out and push her dad into her cell and trap him in there, and then she puts in the code wrong 3 times and sucks the oxygen out of the room, so she ends up killing her dad in there. And then yeah, she escapes. I don't remember how her and Ben get back together. How Zoe and Ben.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know that she got him out of the room, or
Oh no,
he.
Zoe and Claire get up into the house, right? And then like I think what ends up happening is Zoe escapes, like leaves or something like that. She's supposed to like go tell people or whatever.
Right.
Um and like I think she showed her that Ben was okay. Um that she saved Ben, that Claire had saved Ben. But that and then Zoe goes to where it all started at in New York, where the homeless guy had stolen her necklace, and then she sees Ben being wheeled out on a
And
stretcher.
the ambulance, right. I remember
Yeah.
that now. Yeah. And so we get to see one, that Claire is evil. Two,
Yeah.
she's been the one making all of these amazing traps. And just now she's going to be, if they do a third one, the main villain. I hope they do a third one because it would be interesting to see the two of these brains go head to head. You know, Zoe still isn't, or did Zoe realize that she was being duped, or did she not figure that out?
I don't
I don't
I don't
I don't think she
remember.
did in this one.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would be interesting to see in the third one, to have her realize that the person that she thought she was helping was actually the person that got all of her friends killed, and all of these
Yeah.
people, I say friends loosely, like they knew each other for a whole day, but you
Yeah.
you know what I mean, that got all of these people and possibly Ben, who is now her friend, killed. That would be interesting to see these two female minds kind of go at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she like, she wanted her there because she knew Zoe would, be smart enough to help her, figure that out. And so, it's a twist on the theatrical version because Amanda said that Minos wanted Zoe there to help make the games, and if she did, then her daughter would be saved and all this. And because that's who they really wanted. They didn't want Amanda, they wanted Zoe. And so and in this way I think that would be the same thing as this showdown in the next movie would be great between
Hmm.
Zoe and Claire, and matching mind to mind, trying to
I think so.
out dupe each other. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun for
I'm
sure.
with you though. I wish people would give these movies a lot more love because they really are a lot of fun. And to me, maybe it's because I've seen so many of the Saw movies and I'm already over it. I'm like, I've seen it done so many times before, and I like this fresh idea of it, and knowing that each room could be different. Clearly in this one, it had no real meaning to the participants, but I still like the fact that they have to kind of work together to figure this out and get out in the nick of time. I don't know.
Right.
They're just a lot of fun. I really do enjoy both of them. I think I still enjoy the first one a little bit more than the second one, but I like the traps in the second one more.
Right. I like the addition of the Minos or the Claire stuff in the extended cut, that because it actually fleshes out some of the motivations and some of the backstory
Hmm.
to the overall thing. But yeah, I think the first one's a lot of fun. Like I said, you do get Deborah Ann Wall as Amanda. You get Tyler Labine as Mike. You get some good characters, good actors in that one as well. So that one's a lot of fun because it's a little bit more personal to them as well. So, but yeah, I think that putting them in escape rooms, actually doing the whole escape room thing is kind of fun because most people have either done escape rooms or know enough about escape rooms
Hmm.
that you can enjoy this without you know without having to deal with like the Saw level kind of weirdness that goes into those. What about
And
you,
then it's
Katrina?
always rich people wanting to see people duke it out too. So
Yeah.
so I will say before not that I'm wrapping up your show, this is your show, but I will say there are two movies that I brought with me to tell you about it that I hope
Okay.
either one of you might be interested in if you've not seen them. So one of them that kind of goes along with this escape room is called Intacto. Either of you heard
Okay.
of that one?
No.
So it's a Spanish movie, but basically the plot is that similar to the escape room, it's all about people getting what they call quote unquote the luckiest people in the world together, and then they engage in these different games of chance to see who is the luckiest of the luckiest people.
Hmm.
It is insane. Like it is just nutter butters off the chain. But it made me think when I saw the escape room, I was like, that's exactly like Intacto because they do weird games. Like they have them blindfolded and they have to run through a forest, and some people get impaled and some people fall off cliffs, and it's just insane. So Intacto is one. The second one is a movie called Fermat's Room. And if you've not seen that one, it goes along with the escape room because it's all of these so-called geniuses. They get invited to this mathematician's house for dinner, and the mathematician never shows up. And then they start noticing that the room is slowly closing in on them, and they have to figure out the clues to get out of the room before it crushes them to death. Um, Both of these are just in the same vein of escape room, and I really think
Yeah.
both of you would like those.
That's cool. Yeah.
I'll have to check
Definitely have
them
to
out.
check those out. Yeah.
Especially since
All
you do
right.
double features all the time. So that
Yeah.
might be a double feature you might want to do one day. They're not horror, but they are pretty damn creepy, and it's you'll hold your breath a lot in a lot of these scenes in both of those movies.
That's cool. That's cool.
So I just brought that with
Uh,
me.
yeah. Thank you. Any last thoughts for you, Katrina?
Um, I like these escape room movies. I don't know if I ever saw the first escape room before I saw the second one, but it became like my favorite kind of like at least like top five or top 10 or
Hmm.
something for these kinds of movies. And it kind of gave me more insight onto like what kind of horror movies I like more. I like these kind of like psychological thriller things, these kind of things that kind of just make you like kind of cringe
Hmm.
moments. So I, I,
Yeah.
I really enjoy these movies. And if they do make a third one, I'll be seated in the theater for it. So
Yeah, I know I will be too. I
Definitely.
definitely want to see a third one.
Yeah, I'm hoping they make that third one because it just I'd like to see a good trilogy like completion, kind of like we said. I would really like to see them go like Claire versus Zoe here at the end, and just kind of see them match wits and figure try to outwit each other. So that would be really cool.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting too because, we get to see, especially in the first movie, we saw Zoe as just being kind of a victim and kind of waifish. And by the end of the first movie, she was like, yeah, no, I'm not having that. She went all Sarah Connor
yeah.
on us. And then we
Yeah,
saw her in this movie, and she's still, very much, I'm going to take this company down. I don't give a shit. Let me
yeah,
help this little girl. Oh my God, I just released a monster, but I don't know it yet. So it would be interesting to see that revelation that you set this psychopath free. Now you have to
yeah.
stop her. I would very much plunk some money down for that. No doubt.
Same. Yep. All right. Well, Donna, why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
Um, you mean besides hanging out with you and Katrina
Of
all the
course.
time? So yeah, I'm on social media, Twitter, Instagram. I try to be on Discord. And I have a podcast, and it is called Donna underscore the THA underscore dead. So I do have a podcast if you want to come and visit my neck of the woods, but I'm usually here hanging out with Robert, so you can find me here too.
Yep, you definitely hear a lot. You were just on the last episode. You're on this episode. You'll probably be on another one soon, very soon.
I'm gonna
Uh,
be moving in.
all right. And Katrina, where can people find you?
You can find me on Do I say X or Twitter now?
Twitter.
One of those.
It's always Twitter.
Say Twitter.
You can find me there at RCKMNKY, and then I have a pinned tweet that has all of my socials, or most of my socials at least. So,
all right, cool. Well, I appreciate both of you coming on and talking these movies with me. We as we have to go into escape rooms as a team. It's good to have a team to talk about these movies. So, and we made it out on the other side.
We sure did. I wouldn't have gone in, but that's just me.
But see, with me and Katrina, we made it through one. We made it out in time, barely in time, but we made it out in time. So, knowing that you can come join us and go through another escape room.
I guess I can do that kumbaya bullshit. I guess. We need to find another couple of movies to talk about because I love talking with Katrina. Not that I don't love talking with you, Robert, but I do love when she's here.
I love talking with you too. It's a lot of fun to hear someone else's perspective besides my dad.
Yeah. Yeah, she hears enough of me all the time.
Well, I will come back whenever you guys want. Just let me know.
All right. Well, thank you both, and I'll try to figure out another set of movies for us all to do. So, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Katrina and Donna for joining me. On Friday's episode, Mix Bell Morgan returns to the show to talk about Iron Man 3. And on Monday, Dev Elson joins me for our next sequels episode on I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Thanks for listening. Creepy and Geeky is a part of the Morbidly Beautiful podcast network. Please check out morbidlybeautiful.com/podcasts for more great shows. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, please share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. Music for the podcast is Gratitude, composed by Jerry Smith. You can follow the podcast on social media at Creepy and Geeky on both Twitter and Instagram. If you'd like to follow me, I'm Geek Thulu on Twitter and Blue Sky, and geek.thulu on Instagram. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on TeePublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.